Good afternoon. My name is Margaret Mueller, and I'm the President and CEO of the Executives Club of Chicago. Welcome to our luncheon today. Is this not the best-dressed crowd in all of Chicago? And probably the best-dressed Executives Club event ever. So thank you all for being here today. I'm thrilled to welcome you here for our exciting conversation with fashion icon Diane von Furstenberg. This conversation has been in the works for many, many months, getting us here today. And after lots of planning and shopping, I'm so pleased that we're kicking off our Women's Leadership Series program this season with such an iconic figure in fashion, business, and philanthropy. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to welcome our head table guests, several of whom also serve on the board of directors for the Executive Club. Please hold your applause until all guests have been introduced. Starting with Mike Easley, Senior Vice President, Northwestern Memorial Healthcare. David Hanfland, Partner and Head of Americas, A.T. Kearney. Linda Imonti, Office Managing Principal, KPMG. Diane von Furstenberg, Founder and Chairman, Diane von Furstenberg. Tonice Paul, President and CEO, Energy BBDO, and Chair of the Board, Executives Club of Chicago. Bob Arthur, President, Magellan Corporation. Amy Littleton, Executive Vice President and Managing Director, Kemper Lesnick, and Co-Chair of the Marketing, Communications, and Sales Forum. Carl Vanderwilt, Retired Chairman, CEO, and President of SunTrust Bank. Kristina O'Neill, Editor-in-Chief, Wall Street Journal Magazine, and our moderator today. Sharon Oberlander, Managing Director, Wealth Management Advisor, Merrill Lynch. Jeff Adkins, Managing Director, Energy BBDO, and Christina Conlon, Counsel, Baker McKenzie, and the co-chair of our Food and Beverage Forum. Thank you so much for being here today. Please take your seats. Additionally, I want to thank our many generous sponsors, without whom we could not put on programs like this. Thank you so much for all of your support of the club and for being here today. I want to just name them for you all. So first, our platinum sponsors, BMO Harris and KPMG, our Women's Leadership Gold Series sponsors, Energy BBDO, Magellan Corporation, Merrill Lynch, and NiSource, our gold sponsor, Northwestern Memorial Healthcare, our silver sponsors, 11 Honore, Baker McKenzie, Mesero Financial, OptumRx, and William Blair, and our technical sponsor, Shure, and our media sponsors, the Wall Street Journal and the Chicago Latino Network. Thank you so much. So it is a rarity for legacies and careers to reach such all-encompassing heights like we see in Diane von Furstenberg. As a businesswoman and fashion designer, Diane's career has spanned decades. Her tenacity, eye, and drive have made her one of the most recognizable names in fashion history. Her desire to be bold, however, far surpasses her iconic designs and her thriving business. For Diane, this boldness takes visionary design into exciting philanthropic ventures as she works tirelessly to advocate for female leaders, the arts, education, and most recently, as we have all watched her pave the way for the highly anticipated Statue of Liberty Museum. As we all strive to define what it means to be bold and in charge inside our professional, personal, and philanthropic lives, hearing from Diane von Furstenberg and Kristina O'Neill will no doubt leave us all motivated and inspired to take charge of our lives in new and exciting ways. This conversation cannot be a better one to launch our Women's Leadership Series this season. So in a few moments, Tracy Morris from BMO Harris Financial Group will take the stage to say a little bit more about Diane and Kristina before the conversation. Please enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Tracy Morris. I am the Chief HR Officer for BMO Financial Group, and I'm very excited to be here today representing the Executive Club of Chicago and BMO Harris Bank as well. We are proud to be a platinum sponsor for today's Women Leadership Program. And seeing all the women in the room, I'm just really impressed, not only with your fashion, your wisdom, and everything you're going to learn here today. At BMO, we're collectively working as a sense of purpose, and that purpose is to boldly grow the good in business and in life, and also achieving gender parity, as well as zero barriers to inclusion. That is our motto and what we stand for. As I glance across the room, I'm very excited about our generous host, Margaret Mueller, our president and CEO of Executive Club. I'm so honored to have met you and be a part of this wonderful event. Also, Denise Paul, the president and CEO of Energy BBDO, and the chair of the Executive Club. Also, Kristina O'Neill, editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal magazine. I'm so thrilled to have you here with us as well. And not only the woman who made this all happen, not to mention Diane von Furstenberg, chairwoman of Diane von Furstenberg, and our esteemed speaker for today. Let's give her a round of applause as well. Love her elegance and grace. Daniela O'Leary Gill could not join us today. She is actually our BMO board member, but she does send us her best wishes for today, and I know it's going to be a wonderful program, so we'll pass on the good news, and I get to fill in for her, so I'm excited. And now to introduce our wonderful speaker. Diane entered the world of fashion in 1970, creating a name for herself as one of the well-known designers and fashion tycoons in the business that she holds. Her career has endured successes and challenges of 5 decades as she continues to evolve her business and mission. Beyond creating a career for herself, she has dedicated her life to empowering women all over the world through her philanthropic efforts. Today we will hear about her entrepreneurial journey, the motivations and the struggles she has faced through this career, as well as the importance of creativity and staying true to yourself, particularly in big business. Alongside her tremendous professional success, her dedication to uplifting and empowering women is truly commendable. In an era where corporations are constantly changing and engaging in different efforts for women, Diane's voice has passed through and engaged us all through the communities and the efforts that she leads. Our moderator for today, Kristina O'Neill, has brought innovation and accomplishments to her career in journalism, especially in the time as the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal magazine. It is my pleasure to recommend and have to the stage Kristina and the Diane von Furstenberg.
I want to start by saying something pretty remarkable, I think, about your story. You are the epitome of the American dream. And I think it's relevant that we start with your childhood. You were born in Belgium to Jewish parents. Your mother, Lily, survived Auschwitz, weighing just 49 pounds when she left. 18 months later, she had you. She's a fighter and clearly was a central figure and inspiration in your life. Did your confidence come from her?
I think my confidence came from my father. But, you know, I was really born out of ashes because my mother was 22 when she was deported. She spent almost 14 months from Auschwitz and 2 other camps. When she was finally liberated, she weighed 49 pounds. She came back home in Belgium. Her parents couldn't believe that she had made it. Her mother fed her every 10 minutes a little bit of food. So she swelled up like a balloon. 6 months later, she gained her weight back. Her fiancé came back. They got married. And the doctor told her, no matter what, you cannot have a child for at least 3 to 5 years because you won't survive and your child won't be normal. And sure enough, 9 months later, I was born and I was not normal.
Well, you're a miracle baby, clearly.
So I was very much a miracle baby. And so my mother was she was a tiger mom. She was tough. She would not allow me to ever be afraid. I mean, fear was just not an option. If I was afraid of the dark, she would put me in the closet. Today, she would get arrested. But you know, you realize if you're in a dark closet, after 5 minutes, it's not dark anymore, and there's no reason to be afraid. So she made me independent.
And did she live long enough to?
Oh, yes. She lived, she died 19 years ago.
And so she obviously was lucky enough to see your success. Was she proud of you?
Yeah, she was proud of me, but she wasn't the kind of say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." But she was proud of me, and you know, she was the kind of person. She was very friendly with all my friends. She would give advice to everybody, and that would annoy me so much. And now I'm 10 times worse than she was.
All right, so let's fast forward to 1974, when you introduced the iconic wrap dress. For cultural context, Nixon had just resigned. The country was in the middle of a recession. The Sears Tower was the world's tallest building, and suddenly you're selling 15,000 wrap dresses a week.
25.
25,000. Fact-checking the Wall Street Journal in real time. Walk me through a day in your life in 1974. You're 23 years old.
Well, yes, listen. When I was growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to be. But I knew the kind of woman I wanted to be. I wanted to be a woman in charge. I wanted to be able to pay my own bills. I wanted to have a man's life in a woman's body. And you know, when you start your life, you don't know what door is going to be your door. My door happened to be this Italian manufacturer that I met in Como, and I learned, I interned there. Then I visited my boyfriend who lived in America, who was the perfect European catch. He was a prince. And you know, your average catch. Anyway, so I came to visit him for a month, and I loved America. That was in 1969. I loved it. So when I went back to Italy, back to the factory, all of a sudden I saw, I said, I can use this and try to go back to America. And this was making, I mean, it's a long story, and you can read my book, and if you want to read it on audio, it's my voice. But anyway, it's, so I made a few dresses. In the meantime, I got engaged, I got pregnant, in that order, and then I got married, and I came to America, and then I started. And for the first 2 years, I had 2 children, and I was kind of working out of my dining room. And then there was this little wrap top first. It was a top with a matching skirt, and then it became a dress. And then it was just like, you know, it just took me.
Why do you think it connected with American women so quickly?
I don't know. And it was very different than anything that was around then. And everybody say, well, you know, the fashion industry say, so what? That's a little dress. And it was really not the fashion industry that made me. It's really the women. And I had a salesman who would ship me everywhere. I mean, I used to come here in Marshall Field, and then I was, you know, go and wrap women. And the more confident that I was, the more confident that I was selling. So from that beginning, I was only 25, 26, I was becoming confident, and I was discovering the woman in me, and I was also helping others to. So I had this amazing relationship with women, which has lasted, as you said, almost half a century.
But talk us through your business philosophy, because you were in instant success.
Yeah, I have no business philosophy.
Did you have a business plan?
No.
No.
No. And when people tell me, if you knew then what you know now, blah, 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 what would you do different? And for years, I didn't know what to say. And now I can say, I wish I had a business plan. But everything happened so fast that there is no business plan that could have predicted it, you know? So I raised, you know, and then I became so successful. By the time I was 28, I had 18 licensees and the beauty business and this and that. And then, of course, you can't go up, 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 up always. You know, you got to crash at some point, or you got to go through failures. And so I've had a very interesting journey. And then and then I sold everything then. And then I thought I was finished. And then 20 years ago, I started again.
But in between, you launched a cosmetics company, a book publishing house.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Did a stint on QVC.
Yeah, that was, yes.
We're raising your 2 children.
I know,
Got married again.
yes. But,
So
yeah, I mean,
it's not like you're on vacation for 20 years.
I know. I have done a lot of things, and I keep on doing a lot of things, and I have a lot of energy, and I'm very curious, and I've had a good life, and voila. And now, you know, as I'm looking at myself, I am, you know, if I'm lucky, I am at the early stage of the sunset, or the autumn of my life, right? And it's great, because the autumn, the foliage is at its most beautiful, because you have all the experience that you have accumulated, and you have all of the knowledge. And so it's a wonderful time, but it's also a wonderful time to share, because I have had a very full life, a very intense life. I've met a lot of people, I've done a lot of things, and therefore I have a lot to give, and I have a lot to share.
Let's just name check some of the names in your Rolodex. Jeff Bezos, Oprah, the Clintons, Caroline Kennedy, David Geffen, Anna Wintour. You know a lot of people. Is there any one person whose opinion you value the most?
You know, I also know a lot of people who are not so well known, and who are just as admirable, and who have taught me a lot. I listen to everybody, and I do what I want.
Well, you have said that the most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself.
That's right. That's right.
How do you
and that's the
encourage women? How do you become more confident putting yourself first?
Well, can I start with the manifesto?
Yeah, we can jump to that.
So this summer, well, I've been thinking very much, you know, okay, what kind of old woman am I going to be? And so one day I was doing a story with the Washington Post with Robin. And it was 2 years ago. And then, I don't know what happened to me. I just said to her, you know, I used to be an icon. Now I want to become an oracle. Okay, before I know, the article came out, and this huge word, oracle, came out. So for a minute and a half, I was embarrassed. And then I thought, yeah, that's what I want to be.
Go for it.
And so I want to assume that role, which means it's about sharing all the things that I know. So this summer,
Wisdom.
yeah. So when I didn't know, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be a woman in charge. When people used to say, "Who do you dress?" I always say, "I dress the woman in charge." So in charge was always so much part of my vocabulary, of the ethos of my brand. But I didn't pay very much attention to it. And this summer, and also when we do International Women's Day, it's always under the theme of in charge. So last summer, I thought, well, you know, I should think about it, because I don't want people to think that being in charge is aggressive, right? I mean, it's affirmative, but it doesn't have to be aggressive. So I thought about it, and to be in charge is first and foremost a commitment to yourself, is owning who you are. And I promise you that as an old woman, I can tell you, the secret of life is owning it. If you own your imperfection, they become your assets. If you own your vulnerability, it becomes your strength. Owning it is really the secret of everything. And don't lie. And then I thought, because I always say the most important relationship is the relationship you have with yourself, because once you have that, any other relationship is a plus and not a must, and you don't want to be needy, not nice. And then also, there's a man that I admire very much called Vartan Gregorian, and his grandmother told him, and this is the best advice I ever got from anyone, his grandmother, who survived the Armenian genocide 100 years ago, told him, the only thing you absolutely have 100% control of is your character. You can lose your health, you can lose your wealth, you can lose your family, you can even lose your freedom, but you never lose your character. And those things, so your character, the relationship with you have with yourself, owning it, all of that really makes the little house, the shelter that you carry inside yourself, and that is really the core to your own strength.
How do you nurture that? How do you,
Well, it's practice, you know. First of all, you have to know it. And it's not easy, and you know, I want, you know, everyone to know, at least twice a week, I feel like a loser when I wake up, right? Everybody feel like losers. Only losers don't feel like losers. But, you know, so it's totally fine to feel...
So how do you reset the mental game?
You feel irrelevant, you feel this, you feel that, you feel all that. Then you get up and you got to go on. And so another good thing that I didn't write it, Balzac wrote it, but it's very helpful. If you doubt your power, you give power to your doubts. And then you go on, and you own it, and you do your thing, and you get excited, and then you forgot you felt like a loser an hour ago.
One of the things I like most about the In Charge Manifesto is the idea of waking up, not feeling like a loser, and doing two things for other people before you do something for yourself.
Exactly. So once you are in charge, then you can, you know, that's the individual, right? So what I want to help is I want to help the individual to be in charge. Once the individual is in charge, if we get together as a collectivity, then we are very, very powerful and we can help others. So my CEO told me, if you have a manifesto, you have to write, what are they called? Microsteps. So I didn't know what Microsteps was, but then I realized that I do know because I practice them. So the first microstep is a little game that I do every morning, and I'm sure some of you will do it because it's very fun, is that amongst the first 10 emails I do every day, I make sure that at least 2 are things that don't benefit me. And with email, you know, you don't have to speak, you don't have to leave a message, you don't have to, you can do it from bed, but you can absolutely change someone's life by introduce this person, write, you know, thoughtful, you know, with thoughtfulness, and you have a magic wand, and we all have a magic wand. And the more you use your magic wand, the more powerful your magic wand is, and it's just a wonderful thing.
Diane is often the first person on a weekend to send me an email when the magazine comes out. And it is one of the best feelings to sort of hear from her, you know, unexpectedly.
And by the way, I don't read any other magazine. So I want you to know, she's the best editor-in-chief, and she has the best, the most informative magazine.
Thank you.
Wall Street Journal.
Thank you all. No, but I think one of the things that I've learned in my career is to trust my instinct, and my instinct has never failed me. Sometimes it can be confused, but ultimately, if I really listen, my instinct is what guides me. And I feel like that's something that you have incredible instincts, incredible people instincts. I'm just curious sort of how you hone those relationships and what you do to make sure you're always clear to sort of receive those messages?
Oh my God. Well, that goes to the next step, which is expand. It's very important to expand your universe, to pay attention and make sure that at least once a week you meet somebody and you engage into a meeting with somebody that normally you would never talk to. And that is amazing. It expands their universe, but it really expands your universe. And I'm very curious, and I don't like small talks, I don't like dinner parties, I don't like things like that, but I love intimate conversation.
You've been very supportive throughout your career of female entrepreneurs. It's something that you've marked with your board work for Vital Voices. You've launched the DVF Awards 10 years ago?
Yeah.
10 years ago? You even support your famous female nominees of the Oscars. Your picnic is one of the hottest tickets in Hollywood. How has serving as a mentor been something that's become so meaningful for you?
Well, it's a nice way to stay relevant. And as you get older, you're no longer a threat to them, so it's fine. I don't know. I'm joking. It's something that you develop over the years, and then it's wonderful. It's wonderful to change people's lives and to give them the strength when they need it. And it's not when you're successful. It's the people who lose their jobs. When I see people, I read in the paper of someone who loses their job, I immediately reach them. And it's the same email, everybody gets the same email. When the door closes, another one opens, you know that at that time, people care, and you reach them at a point that they felt inadequate.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say. Everybody feels inadequate at some point, or sometimes. And there's nothing wrong. For example, I think it's very important to know. When I was at the very top, my very first success, I was on the cover of Newsweek. Okay, Newsweek doesn't mean anything today, but there was no CNN, there was no, no internet, everything. So at that, I was also, by the way, on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And so, 28 and top. And everybody would say, oh, I was the biggest success. Okay, I was the biggest success. But the truth is, deep inside me, I knew that I had problems. I knew that I had saturated the market at that time for the thing. So sometimes, you read about people and they're at the very top, but maybe they're not so much at the very top. And the same time, when people may think, oh, you are has-been, she's over, the brand doesn't mean anything, that also may not be true, because you yourself know that you're already on the way back.
How do you deal with people's perception of you as a failure?
Oh, you ignore. No, you just have to, okay, I will say something. This is a good trick. You should always bring up front, if you talk to someone, you should always bring up what you know that they think about you that's negative.
Right.
And the minute you bring it up front, you first, then you neutralize it. That's a good trick that you do with journalists.
That's great advice. You once said that you had 3 horrible bosses who kind of abused you earlier in your career. You worked for other people who weren't mentors, leaders, or people who you wanted to emulate. What do you say to people who have horrible bosses?
Yeah, well, actually, he was my mentor, and he gave me all the opportunity, and I took the opportunity. Did he grope me? Yes. So, but I pushed him away, and I took what I needed to take from him.
Yeah.
But I was lucky because I only had 3 bosses very early in life, and then I became my own boss. And I managed my womanhood the best I could, with taking advantage of it. But it's very different if you are in the corporate world, and it's very different if you are, a girl and you wanted to be a journalist all your life, and you worked and you put yourself through college and you took a college loan and all of that, and you finally have the best job with the best journalist and everything else, and you're, very lucky, and yet every time he goes by, he touches your tits, So I have a lot of sympathy for all of that, and we know that, and we know the Me Too. And
Well, you've been very vocal in your support for Me Too and helping right the wrongs of the
It's
culture.
more than anything, it's the abuse. And one of the things that it's very important that we fight the violence, abuse, and inequality. And within those 3 words, all abuses are included.
Culturally, in your company, you are surrounded by a lot of very strong women. Is it important to you to have an almost all-female team?
So, yes, I'm a women's company and I'm a fashion company, so we have more women than men for sure. I remember one day it was in an event, and I was interviewing Warren Buffett, and he said, how many men in your company? And so I wanted to act very cool and be very cool in front of Warren Buffett. So I said, in my company, the men drive and clean. And he loved that. And of course, it wasn't true. And of course, if a man said that, you'd never hear the end of it. So now it's not even politically correct to tell it.
You once said you're not a great manager and that you never will be when it comes to sort of having that pure business instinct. You joked earlier about not even having a business plan. But when your company was thriving, what were you doing that felt like your leadership was on point?
No, my leadership is on point. I should just not. Sometimes I am an enabler. So sometimes I think that if you give the opportunity to people, everybody can take it. And then I realize that it isn't necessarily always true.
Right. What have some of the bigger disappointments been professionally?
Challenges happen, and then you process the challenge, and then you move on, and then you even forgot that it all started because of a challenge.
Right.
So, blaming is something that was not allowed in my house. You don't blame anything. You don't blame the weather. You don't blame anything. You don't blame. You just deal with it, own with it, fix it, and then you forgot that there was a disappointment.
You have an amazing partner in Barry Diller, your husband. What kind of advice does he give you about your company? Do you guys talk about work?
Barry and I, we've known each other 44 years. I can't explain. We have a way to process that's very odd. Sometimes we are together for a day and we speak maybe 10 minutes. But yet we're very present in each other's life and very, very much there for each other. And I talk, and then he pretends he doesn't listen, but then he quotes me. So, and we hike a lot, so I don't speak when I go up, but when we go down is when we speak.
Yeah. And what kind of advice do you give him?
Oh, I give him so many advice. I give him so many advice. No, we have a pretty good relationship. But again, I always say, the most important relationship in life is the one I have with myself, which is true. But then, of course, I have him.
Children.
But if I didn't have a good relationship with myself, I don't think I would have him the way I have him.
Well, one of
because
the things
when I get needy, it's not so good.
Yeah. One of the things that you guys do together is philanthropy. You've done some incredible things, from your family foundation, the High Line, the Shed, the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures that's opening next year, and soon Pier 55.
What? And the Statue of Liberty?
And the Statue of Liberty.
Yes, I am the godmother
The
of
museum,
the Statue of Liberty.
which you raised $100 million for.
I did.
Bravo
And
to
we
you.
opened the museum. And if you don't know much about the Statue of Liberty, I did a book, and there's a documentary that came out 2 weeks ago on HBO. It's called Liberty, Mother of Exile.
But tell us about philanthropy and how
so
you choose what causes to support, what it does for you personally.
You know, philanthropy when you're young can be a little overwhelming and intimidating. I mean, I remember at first for me when I was a young girl, philanthropy was, you know, those old women who do voluntary work in hospital. And then you grow up, and then you get involved and interested and involved, and then you get involved, and then it's like landscaping, you know. At first you think that you need a specialist to pull down a tree or to plant a tree, and then you start doing it on your own, and then you say, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
So philanthropy is part of your life, and it's part of exactly the same thing, using your connection, using all the things that you know in order to make things happen. 20 years ago when I started my company again, I decided that instead of having an office, renting an office midtown, I would buy a little carriage house in the West Village. And it was, the neighborhood was really bad, full of butchers, it smelled bad. But I did it, and then I met, when you're in a new neighborhood, you meet your neighbors, and then I met these two young guys who had a dream of building a park on, there was an elevated railroad called the High Line, and to turn it into a park. And so we did the first fundraising there, and little by little, as a matter of fact, when Mayor Giuliani left, the very last thing he did was sign the destruction of the High Line. And we turned it around, and we made it into a park. And we actually, my family ended up being the largest contributor. And it is today the #1 tourist destination in New York City.
Also, what you've done with the meatpacking district alone. The Whitney Museum, I mean, you've created an entire hub of shopping, retail. You've transformed a neighborhood.
I know, but it's not like you think, oh, I'm going to transform the neighborhood, you know? It's just, that's life. You get involved, you do things, and then you turn around and you say, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Has anyone ever told you no?
I mean, I've been rejected. Yeah, I've been rejected. But rejection can be a stimulus, too, you know? And you have to think, why have I been rejected? And then I mean, one thing that's very important also if you want to be in charge, of course you have to like yourself, support yourself and all of that, but you also have to make sure that you're not delusional, right? So it's a lot, you have to be strict with yourself. And then, you know, then you can kind of, you know, wink in the mirror and like yourself.
Well, so we have a few questions from the audience.
Oh.
The first one there, it's very high tech. If anyone has a question, you just text me. Given your mother's teaching, are you afraid of anything?
Am I afraid of anything? Well, yes, but I imagine that if I'm afraid of something, I take the fear and I throw the fear in the basket, and I'm left with the same situation as before, but less the fear, and therefore it's easier to handle. make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds easier said than done, probably. But
it's a practice.
right.
It's a practice.
So the next question is, what are you most excited about for the future?
Well, I hope, I mean, the thing I'm most excited is I hope my future is as long as possible. I am both concerned and curious and excited about technology and artificial intelligence and all these things that are happening that are going to completely change our society and the way we do things. So I'm very curious about that. I'm very much afraid of climate change. I mean, I'm very much afraid of the impact that it will have. And I wish, that's one place where I wish that people would be afraid so that, you know, collectively
Terrified into
we would
action.
do something.
Yeah, like Venice. The next question is, what are some of the largest obstacles you've faced in your career, and how did you address it?
I don't remember bad things. I mean, it's like pain, you know? I mean, it's terrible toothache, terrible pain. But then once it's over, you say, oh, yes, I was in pain, but you don't remember the pain. So, obstacles are just, you just have to deal with them, and then they can become the good thing.
Yeah. How can women leverage fashion to succeed in the workplace?
What?
How can women leverage fashion to succeed in the workplace?
Well, buy a nice dress.
No, but dress codes have changed quite a lot in the last, even
Yes.
like 5 years.
Yes, but it's not a matter of the dress code, it's a matter of the attitude. And so, you know, me as a fashion designer, I always say that I never tried to make big fashion statement, but it's about the body language of the woman, it's about giving her confidence because of the way it's cut or because of the fabric. And what I tell the designers in my company is that make sure that DVF is the friend in the closet. You know, the friend is in the closet. When you wake up and you don't feel good and you have to do it, go for the friend in the closet.
Yeah. Do you own jeans?
Do I own jeans? Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen her in a pair of jeans. No, but you mentioned body language, and I've always admired your body language. You are so comfortable in your own body. You obviously have incredible legs. But there is something about how women carry themselves. And has anyone ever come to you for sort of advice in just how to sort of sit in a chair in front of a room full of 600 people?
I have someone right now who heads my design department. She is 33 years old. She's very beautiful. And she's actually very talented and all of that. And the only problem with her is she has very bad body posture. And I want her to be in charge. And I know she's capable to be really in charge and to shine. And even yesterday I talked to her. I said, you will not be in charge until you stand up straight.
Yeah.
And no, mind you, it's not like I stand up so good. But the body language is very important, and it has a lot to do with with how you are comfortable with yourself. Yeah.
You have an incredibly poised granddaughter who is now working in the company.
I have two.
Two. Well, Talitha is the one I'm referencing, who's now involved in the company. Where do you see the future of DVF going, and do you see your granddaughter?
Yes, she's always wanted, the first one, Talitha, she's always wanted to take over the company. And I remember she was 9 when we went on a trip together in Florence. I was doing a big fashion show in a private garden, and she stayed with me. I said, you can come with me, but you gotta work. And she did work. Now I see pictures, and I say, my God, that was slave labor.
Child labor.
I mean, and I remember her, she used to say, but do I have to call it DVF when I run it? So now she has her own line called TVF. Her
And-
name is Talita von Furstenberg.
And what do you see her, I mean, obviously the fashion industry has changed so dramatically
Yes.
in even the 20 years since
Yes.
you've brought the brand back. I would say in probably the last even year that
Right.
Talitha's been involved in the, confusing your daughter and your granddaughter, has been involved in the brand. How are you pivoting to sort of keep
Well,
up with the market today?
The good thing about her, she was at Georgetown for 2 years, and then she transferred from Georgetown to come to NYU. Now she's at NYU. And the great thing about the fact that she only did it now and not 2 years ago is now she's studying all the things that matter in fashion, sustainability and all the, how you market to the, today. Because when I started, if you had a brand or if you had a fashion business, you depended on two industries, the publishing industry and the retail industry. Okay, so both those industries are, challenged. And so a brand today you have to be your own publisher and your own retailer. And you have to be able to do that, so it's a very different way. And then, of course, the sustainability is so, so, so important today. Because the last 10, 15 years, everything was about cheap. You have all these mass merchants who make cute things, and you buy them and you throw them. And now all of a sudden, young people don't want to throw. And there's a circular economy that's happening. And all of that is very interesting. And since, that's one place where I thought about the sustainability, and I thought, okay, well, a wrap dress that I made in 1974, not a copy, not a new version, but one from 74, the chances has that dress has already had 2 or 3 lives in vintage shops.
Yeah,
That's sustainability.
yeah, the original.
And the price is higher now.
Are there any more questions for Diane before we conclude today's chat? Anyone? Very high tech here. All right, well, thank you very much for being here. Thank you,
so much.
Diane.
Bye.
Thank you, Diane and Kristina, for a fantastic conversation. And good afternoon. My name is Linda Aimonti. I'm the Office Managing Principal here for KPMG, and I serve on the Board of Directors for the Executive Club. I am more than thrilled to be here today in the presence of not only such an iconic speaker, but also in a room filled with so many remarkable and incredible women. We're a platinum sponsor today of the Women's Leadership Program, and it's with great pride that I close out the conversation today, although I don't think there is any following that conversation with Diane von Furstenberg. She provided us insight on the empowerment of women through entrepreneurial success and her incredible fashion career and boundless philanthropic efforts. As we close the program, I'm confident that Diane and Kristina's conversation will leave us feeling inspired to let our voices be heard, to strengthen our networks and our relationships, and ultimately to uplift liberties and freedoms in this country. I'd like to thank the Executives Club for another magnificent program today. First-class discussions and ideas to members and attendees. I hope to see all of you at the Coming for Women by Women program and the panel on December 3rd. But before I say good afternoon, and we hope to see you at the next event, and before I end, I'd like to remind you of a few things that were so important that we heard today. First of all, I had a few moments to sit with Diane at the table and Kristina. And the one thing she already offered to me that was so impactful was Start your day doing 2 things for other people. I will take that away from here as a learning, and I will utilize that on a daily basis. But I think, remember, most importantly, you are in charge. Remember, own it. And if you doubt your power, you give power to your doubt. On that note, have a great afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.